Good afternoon, everybody. This is where the fun begins, and I really don't know where I'm going to go with this, but um, basically, this all stems from some guy on TikTok telling me, uh, I bragged to him that I understood Navy, and he was like, "Bet you won't make a video on it," and I was like, "Well, now I'm going to make a video on it." So, yeah, I guess I'm going to go over Navy. I have a number of hours in this game I don't really want to go over because I'm not very proud of it. And I'm not even a day oneer. I started playing this game about 2 years ago, and I have since felt like I've mastered Navy. So I guess I'll break this up into little bits and pieces here, since I have a life and I'm not going to sit down and record this for God knows how long this video is going to take. So I guess I'll start with important technologies. I mean, I guess it all comes down to what you're looking to accomplish with your Navy. One of my favorite things to do in single player is to strangle the UK, but not sea lion them. If you see, they start with that many convoys, and I like to watch that number hit zero. And I'll tell you the way not to do it. The way not to do it is with submarines. Submarines stink, especially in multiplayer, where all you have to do to kill any navy is to make something like this. We're going to try and beat that in a little bit of a roundabout way. Um, the best way to do that, I will get into probably in the next section. But as far as important technologies go, first starting here, getting your improved fire control. This is going to be huge. Hit chance is everything ever since they dropped the new Navy rework. Being able to hit stuff is kind of the way to go. UK starts with a bunch of old battleships, which aren't even very good. I mean, having battleships is nice, but if you can't hit anything and the AI never refits their battleships, they're kind of just floating bunkers in a way. So getting that would be huge. And you might think to yourself, well, I'm playing a sweaty meta game. I don't have time to get down to here. Well, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you might divert some of your research into naval larping a little bit, but down here you get your stabilizer, which I mean is a great thing for tanks. I know they've since nerfed that, but you can kind of halfway justify it, especially if you're doing a meta Germany game. And you're like, well, I don't want to go down here and get and spend like look at that, and get this and get this and then maybe even get this. I never go for this, but game's already over by then. But it's same thing with radar in a sense where radar getting advanced radio for your tanks. I mean, it's worth it. Radar is huge for your anti-air defenses on your ships, which if your opponent is just printing these, you're going to need in order to shoot more of these down. And now I'm going to get into my favorite technology into the whole game. You must have this no matter what nation you're playing, unless you're going up against someone who's got zero air force, which then why would they even have a navy? Maybe a defeated Japan, if Japan lost the air war, maybe. And that's these bad boys right here. This is the creme de la creme. This is everything, and they're a little bit expensive, but they give air defense and light attack. And as I'll get into, at least from the way I see the game, light attack is everything. So having that will be important. Um, Fire control methods, I've heard a lot of arguments for these being effective. It doesn't really tickle my fancy. Damage control, certainly a better argument can be made for critical hit chance being lowered. And then we don't talk about this. We don't. It's don't go here. There's nothing worth your time over here. Um, so as far as actual ships go, I'm going to talk more on the destroyer cruiser hull side. Depending on what mod you're playing, aircraft carriers could be beneficial. Where I'm just talking about, I'll be talking about vanilla based mods. I know Bo Cohen kind of plays that one mod where they're fine as bruh, where carrier there's no carrier limit, but in a battle in a vanilla based mod, carriers are only 4, and I don't really see it as worth it, especially if you're fighting, for instance, in the Med, where you can just bring in air from Sicily or from North Africa or from wherever. So I don't see a huge use for aircraft carriers, especially in the Atlantic slash Mediterranean field of battle. The Pacific, but even then, you build these maritime patrol bombers and kind of don't have to build aircraft carriers because sure they're expensive, but it's not as expensive as aircraft carriers, that's for sure. So let's see. Let's see if I went over all the technologies. I mean, I guess if you know your opponent's going subs, you basically just got to know what your opponent's doing. The AI tries to do a little bit of everything, which kind of sucks because if you want to combat everything effectively, then you gotta go into this. You gotta build a normal navy. Super heavy battleships. I love it for the LARP sense, but a little too much drain on the economy with this and this. Unless you're playing Japan, maybe, and you have access to that stuff. I don't know who would have access to that stuff. I'm not really thinking about that right now. So going this way is the most beneficial. Getting this light attack, because I'm going to be focusing on cruisers and destroyers, that's going to be way worth your while. I guess this is a good stopgap, but here is where the money is made. You can put these on all of your ships, and when I get into how to produce a war-winning navy, especially as Germany or something, that's going to be the way to go. So I think that's it for technology. Obviously, building planes that can help. I showed you the maritime bomber build that I did. You can build. I'm not really going to talk about the air too much because it's kind of overpowered and I hate it. But I mean, I guess that kind of mimics real life. I mean, World War II was kind of the last war of big battleships and whatnot. So you can get around Navy. And when I did the one achievement where you sink the entire British Navy, as the Netherlands, I mean that's pretty much all I did. Is I built the maritime patrol bombers, and also did the light cruiser build that I'm going to show you. So I think I'm going to segment this and go into meta builds next. Alright, well, I am going to go with my favorites first. And the best way to do building navy is to kind of know your timetable. Now, if I were playing a historical Germany build, which would involve, eating up a third of Europe before I even go to war, and then, kind of going to war around 1939, you kind of got to. The best way to do it is to go for refits last. Now, a lot of meta gamers will say, "Oh, just take your battleship and just." Put all this anti-air on at day one, and that is certainly a viable strategy. But I'm going to use at least 3 more brain cells and tell you to wait for better technology before you do your refits. That's certainly going to lead you to it giving you an edge in the Navy. So day one, what I like to do, if I'm going to play just a single player game and my goal is to sink as many convoys as possible on the UK and bring them to their knees, economically speaking, I am going to go with cruisers. Now, day one, this is what you're going to build. Now, it's centered around light attack, and you have 1 torpedo on it because this is going to cut through destroyers, light cruisers, basically all of their screens, and to the point where they just have their battleships left. And the torpedo, that's what you're going to use to hopefully sink the battleships after the fact. Now, the bad thing about this is there's no fire control system. I have this researched, but when you start the game, you won't have it researched. No radar either, which is like, so why would you refit when you don't have the best technology available? That's kind of what I'm doing. So day one, I will be building the pre-builds. And then when 1939 rolls around and I built, depending on how much I went into dockyards, let's say I have 15, 16 of these, which doesn't seem like a lot, but they do way more. These things, 3 of these can sink sink 100 convoys. If if they were left to their own devices. So around the time I get like 15 of those, I will refit them into this. Now what this has is it's got the better fire control system, more your shots are going to hit. It's got the radar, you're going to be able to actually find things out in the Atlantic. And the dual purpose secondary battery going to give you that little extra edge of AA, about 3 extra AA, which you're going to need all the AA you can get if the UK is playing it smart and has maritime patrol bombers rolling around. Another viable option would be doing the gunboat build. Pretty self-explanatory here. Sure, that's not a lot, but these are also pretty cheap. And instead of refitting destroyers is never really worth it. At least from the math that I've done. And yes, I have done math on this. I can show you. I have lost the file or have no idea where that file is, but I've done the 71 cloak thing with the Navy. Shout out to him. Probably part of the reason I'm doing this. But when you get the better technology, instead of refitting, I basically just go into this. A lot of anti-air. Look at that. That's a good stat. That's a pretty good stat. Better fire control system, radar, and then these to sink the capital ships should you get to that point. And why the gunboats and the cruisers will be so effective is, like I mentioned earlier, your average starter battleship for the UK, like, it's not going to be able to hit anything. Certainly not going to be able to hit your fast as fuck boy cruisers and whatnot. So around 1939, you switch into refitting and then building the finished version of these. Another thing, if you're playing the English, would be you get a ton of these crappy, World War I-esque battleships that come like this. Like this is a mess. I hate seeing this. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to refit them into something more Chad-like. Sure, this has got the AA that all the naval that all the metagamers love. Just it also has the ability to actually hit things, and it's got light attack. If you were to go for a full AA build like the metagamers do, sure, it's a little bit better AA stat, but look at all that light attack you're giving away. And the way I see Navy is light attack is everything. Getting rid of their screens. Let the naval bombers take care of the rest, and any battleships you have take care of their battleships. But as far as meta builds, that's kind of the way to go. You can also do the Panzerschiff meme if you are Germany and if you have a lot of time to micro these. You start with something like this, and then you maybe refit it into this. Or actually, an even better way, if you wanted to do the Panzerschiff meme, would be day one, you start with building something like this. And then your refit, you just put these on. Because if you build them with these to start, then it's going to cost more. I see to build in the first off, and then the second off, it's going to cost more to refit to this. So building naked ships, like if you wanted to go into battleships, what you could do is you could build this day one, and then when 1939 rolls around and you want to refit and make this ship actually functioning and work, and then you go into building this, which all brings us back to that refit build that I showed you. So once you put that on, then this ship's ready to roll. Look at these beautiful stats. Surface detection, it's just so beautiful. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And as far as aircraft carriers, I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. I don't even think I researched them. But as far as a good aircraft carrier would go, deck space, a little AA, radar, gun doesn't matter. I mean, if you're at the point where your aircraft carrier has to fight, it's a dead man anyway. So, yeah, that's basically all I got for you on that. I think the next part I'll go into is spirits. All right. Since the last section, I am violently hungover, but we're going to continue nonetheless. All right. So, as far as doctrine goes, like I've kind of said before, you kind of gotta know what you plan on going up against, what you plan on doing, things of that nature. Now, I'm going to play Germany, and I'm going to do some of the strategies that I've gone over, whether it's the gunboat or the light cruiser. Going down here is a viable option. Surface detection, being able to find convoys to sink, being able to find all that stuff, that is nice. But a big one I want you guys to consider would be to do carrier primacy based strike, and the reason for that is that all the bonuses you get here are dwarfed by your naval targeting bonuses you get down here. If you're going to be building any kind of ship or a plane to assist you, for instance, if you're playing Italy and you're mostly dealing out here in the Med where you can have planes that can launch from land and help you out building naval bombers and land-based naval bombers. Giving those ships the bonus, those planes the bonus is going to be way better than having rating efficiency. It is very easy to get a high rating efficiency in your games, because pretty much the way if you divvy up, if you just split these up, all you have to do is split these into smaller groups, and you'll be able to raid more efficiently all the way around here. See, now one group can raid one area efficiently because I have this kind of split up into three here. It's only going to raid at about a third efficiency, a little bit less than a third efficiency. But all you got to do to get a high rating efficiency is to divvy up your groups, assuming that's what you're going for, your convoy rating. Fleet and being, that kind of doesn't, it just nothing really down here appeals to me all too often. I guess if you're going for a really big if you're going up against Germany who's just going to 3D print subs, this may be a viable option. But then again, that is dwarfed by building planes and just getting this assist through here. This naval targeting is just absolutely busted, and you can sink entire fleets with 500 naval bombers in a dream. As far as spirits go, if you're going for my Germany build, getting convoy warfare is kind of nice. Surface raiders, fleet speed while retreating is huge because you're going to be running away from the British fleet. You're going to engage convoys. The British fleet's going to be there. You're going to be running away. How fast you can run away will minimize any damage you take, and just be a lot better. Screen attacks also good if you're going to do the gunboat thing. These are all pretty okay. Having night fighting if you're the British or the Americans, because it always comes down to that one big battle. If you're playing multiplayer, the death stack, everyone's still doing death stacks, so having a boost for nighttime fighting is always nice. Chance to score critical hit, this is another good one. These are all pretty good, and I think they do change based on what your doctrine is here. Let's see. Yeah, surprise attack. Free stage after initial stage. Yeah, so if you're microing your navy, these stats don't really matter. Retreat. I love to micro navy. I know sometimes you don't have the time for that, but what I wanted to talk about is this. This is absolutely key. Doing these three right here. So getting your flexible contracts is going to reduce the cost of a designer. And if you're trying to stick with, a meta Germany game, you don't want to spend a ton of political power going into your navy. You want to get war economy. You want to get free trade or export focus. You want to get some of these guys. Getting the spirit to reduce the cost of your designer is going to be absolutely huge. Then, if you're doing the naked build to refit into the better builds, getting naval refit yards that's gonna take 15% of the cost off that, or 25% of the cost off of that. So that's gonna be absolutely huge. Getting integrated designers, it's all right. You're certainly gonna get a bonus from your designer. But if you're trying to rush dual purpose artillery, which everyone who gives a rat's ass about Navy should be doing, then you do want to get integrated designers if you have the naval XP for it. And I know that getting naval XP just absolutely drains your fuel, but it is worth it if you have the fuel just laying around. Even if you buy a little bit from somebody, but I think that covers that. I'm gonna get in next. I'm gonna get into. All right, so I've kind of been doing a normal Germany playthrough, completely Iron Man up until this point. So here's kind of what I've built. I got some things in repair, but roughly about 17, 20-ish ships, which doesn't seem like a lot. But based on the new positioning penalties that Paradox put in through the Navy rework that came with the Italian DLC, quality beats quantity now, which is kind of weird, but you know what? Not gonna argue with that. So I just recently got my final bit of technology that I wanted to get. I'm finishing that. That's just that 30 days for an extra 5% from your cruisers. I decided to mix it up. I did both battle cruisers and the light cruisers, and then just a couple of crappy destroyers, just to kind of be able to fit it all in. So now that I have this, what I'm going to want to do is go into see my prefits I got here. Or you know what? Probably be better. Yeah, let's just do this. So if you click on the icon, it'll bring up the design. Now, what you're going to want to do is put in your better technology and hit save. Probably would have wanted to name it something. Let's name it something. There we go. And we're going to tell them to stop making the old ones when you're done with that. And I kind of want to get these refits underway. So I am going to put them in the queue. Same thing with these battle cruisers. I didn't touch the template here, but now we're going to put in all of the good things. Also, they didn't start with this designer, but when you do put on a designer and you refit, little tidbit, if you start building a ship and then you buy a designer and then you refit, the refits will have that designer. So it's going to refit into this, and it will have the designer. I'm not really going for a heavy attack build, so having 10% more heavy attack doesn't really mean anything to me. The minus 10% heavy attack, these don't even have much heavy attack, which is kind of why do you build them? But it's not that bad, heavy attack. But the minus 10% is not a big deal. 12.6% light attack, I mean, that's pretty good. You're almost getting a half an extra shredding cruiser with the ability to defend itself from the air. I'm going to advance a little bit forward here, and we will go into missions and whatnot when the war kicks off and my refits are done. Alright, now it's time to get to the fun stuff. What you guys have been waiting for, I guess. So here's what I started with. I think there might be a couple of things that I put in this. Here's what I've built. I got two that are in refit still, and a third that seems to be refitting here. Yep, three and refit. And then after I do my refits, I'm just kind of building my refit design, upgrading the radar whenever I get a better radar, or any other upgrades I do. But this is, I mean, this is relatively minimally invasive, I would say. I didn't research new ships, and you really don't need to. Um, I guess if you wanted to do the gunboat meme, having the 1940 destroyer to have, I think, 5 guns on it, yeah, sure, that's cool and whatnot. But where the money is made is in here. Getting this dual purpose battery is going to pay you dividends. And here is why subs stink. I will show you. Um, for the loss of one, this isn't even a naval bomber. This is literally just CAS that I built. I'm doing a relatively normal Germany playthrough, trying to keep everything as meta as possible. But this is this right here. This is not like, there's not a whole lot going on here. I didn't really go into anti-submarine warfare, which is something I'll probably make another section to cover uh, anti-sub warfare. But the short version of anti-sub warfare is you just take like a large airframe and slap torpedoes on it. That's how you deal with subs. You don't need. You can do a radar build, or you can do a sonar build and make destroyers and cruisers and whatnot. But it's really not effective and worth your time. Um, so, as you can see here, the British are trying to convoy raid me, and they're getting smacked by close air support. They're not even getting smacked by naval bombers. It's kind of just an underhanded effort here. So I'm going to also say that I have 3 of these class cruisers. Let's see what the refit time would be if I built them into my meta ship here. Yeah, see, that's definitely worth the time. So I'm gonna slap them into that fleet. Let's see what else I can put in here. Just toss all these destroyers in there. These things, these relics, I'm not even gonna bother with. Not gonna bring out the pride of the fleet. Don't want that to get sunk. Let's see if these are worth it. 114 days. Might be a little long for a cruiser. Might just leave them. But also, what you can do is, like for the British, they have a lot of. I've mentioned this. I think I mentioned this earlier, but they have a lot of. If we tag to the British here, they have a lot of destroyers that are, or a lot of battleships that are of completely different design from each other. Like, look at all these. They're all a little bit different, and one has one engine, one armor. Those are the largest things that take refit time. So if I were to say, all right, well, I want to refit my revenge classes. So if I go make a revenge class kind of meta here, and be like, hang on. So I refit the revenge class, called Mark, just called itself Mark 7. So if I find a revenge class, where is the revenge class? So if I want to refit this revenge class, it'll take me 79 days, which is not long for a battleship. But if I wanted to refit the Queen Elizabeth into the Mark 7, that's a bad example. They must have the same engine or armor. Yeah, so if I wanted to refit these into that Mark 7 variant, look at that. 3 years. That's absolutely, or 2 years. That's ridiculous. So what you have to do is you have to know what kind of engine and armor this has. So this has Engine 2 Battlecruiser Armor 1. So you would have to make, in order to make this ship make sense, you would have to have a whole new refit design. So if we go save as new, and then we refit this design, it would maybe make sense. I'll just put an AA there to save time. So this will probably be called Mark 8 Battlecruiser. Yeah, Mark 8 Battlecruiser. So now if I wanted to refit these, instead of 650 days, it would be Not a whole lot. Much better. So on to that's just a little bit more detailing into refits. Um, Tag Germany. So now we're gonna get out and about, and I like to pick this guy for Germany. Um, Donitz is not a bad idea. Eric Raider is not a good idea. Naval AA attack, especially if you're playing a meta game and they're just going to try and kill you with bombers. Having 20% AA is absolutely going to bite you in the ass. Um, don't want him to not gain experience. Like these other guys aren't really options here. So I like to go with this guy and into kind of good traits to have. Um, if you're doing the cruiser meme, this is the best to have. The fly swatter, naval AA attack, and cruiser captain. Um, I don't really have that, but the best thing that most starting naval officers have is concealment expert, which I'm gonna go with. You can recruit new officers still the same old way. Um, if I spent academy scholarships, you can get it. You can get more. You can roll for better officers. But for most nations where they have the industry to build a navy, you're going to start with a couple of good naval advisors anyway. So I wouldn't really go for any of these, or for this one at least. We can go for instilled aggression, get a better attack stat, and we are going to set sail here with this group. So if I go to convoy rating out here, and I'll tell you why out here, if you go into their naval intelligence, all their trades coming through here. You can see that I have 70% on them. Got 25 from Naval Department Intelligence, which is always a good one, especially if they're playing a mod where spy agency is free. Um, it'll be worth your while to figure it out. I mean, my convoys are getting raided, but they're going to get blown up by my cast anyway. So we're going to set sail here. And since a lot of these have radar, it is going to be easy for them to find prey. Um, they said they were putting in a detailed stats thing here. I don't really see where that is as far as like surface detection and which ship is your slowest and things of that nature. But we're just going to set sail here with this little squad and see what we can find. And that is mildly disappointing. I thought we would catch something very soon, very quick into it. I'm just constantly going for better radar. You can slap that on your ships. Also, find another use for it. Put it in your tanks. I did kind of do a meta Germany build here with Panzer units and 40 with tanks. I mean, I know how to play the game quite meta, but the issue here is we are finding something. Never mind. So we've got our first catch of the day. Where I don't see where it is. Oh, you know what? I think you know what happened. I think we blew it up so fast that it didn't even show up, which was weird. There we go. So we catch 3 convoys, and let's see what the UK is doing as far as escorting convoys going and what missions they're running. So they're on strike force, which is going to say that when they see a battle going on, they're going to try. Oh, I caught one of his infantry. That's unfortunate. But so they're going to send a fleet out to respond to this, and which is all the way up here. But the problem is that by the time they get here, I'm already going to have these convoys blown up. Yep. See, we're gone. And now these ships just kind of go back because there's nothing to do. Once they get on convoy escort, they're doing convoy escort in the channel, but they're not doing it out here. They'll probably adjust their strategy once they see me start to... Wait a minute, I'm already playing England. Once they see me start to sink their convoys, What is going on here? Alright, well, I have successfully unfucked that pig, metaphorically speaking, of course. And I've taken my fleet here, and I even got the old fleet in here just for extra shore bombardment. They're going to take a break from their convoy raiding duties to assist me in this landing. I kind of built some crappy Marines. And we're going to see how this goes. So I assigned them to assist with a naval invasion here. So they're going to... Naval invasion, the mission naval invasion, is actually... You can have them on naval invasion, hypothetically, if you had it all over this area and you were fighting everywhere, even if you weren't navally invading, you would still get shore bombardment bonus on every coastal tile. For instance, we'll launch this. Hopefully these guys go. Why are you not going? Oh, because we're not at war with Norway. Okay, let's fix that. I mean, and also, side note, look at these. You might see we're losing these battles, but the damages we're doing to enemy ships is just ridiculous. I am on carrier base strike, and I don't have a single aircraft carrier, but the naval targeting is what I go for that in that. So they're gonna invade here. And the subs, we got intercepted. And we're making landfall. And we'll speed this up a little bit. There was it. Back in. Let's get this landing. Alright, so we've made landfall. And let's get some tank divisions in there so I can demonstrate. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Alright, thank God you guys showed up. So, for instance, when I go to engage this guy, alright, yeah, I'll go after you. So, okay, I'm out of fuel. That's going to be an issue. Congratulations, Russia. I don't care. I'll just got to kick in the door anyway. Still need more fuel. Okay. Doing your fuel tax will give you dividends, as you can clearly see. So hypothetically, even when I'm engaging this guy, I'm still going to get shore because my task force here is on naval invasion support. A lot of meta guys will just have their fleet doing this, which is a viable option. They'll just manually tell them, "Hey, go over here," and then you'll still get it because your fleet's still standing out there. But it's just another way of doing things. Now, what I'm going to show you next is what would happen if, hypothetically, you were playing England with a brain while these guys repair. Let's push out here. Take some of these troops off the D-Day wall and push out. I don't care to micro you as I'm microing them. Anyway, so hypothetically, if you were playing someone with a brain and you're out there convoy raiding, which I'll have them go out and do now, and you were to... I'm going to make sure to turn the AI off this time, just to demonstrate. So if we were to merge up, what is all their Navy doing out here? The AI and their Navy just absolutely amazes me. What is going on here? So who's on strike force here? Oh, they're on strike force pretty much everywhere. Nice. So if we were to merge up this fleet into a big... Why is it... Oh, because they're in battle. Okay, that makes sense. So if we were to have these guys on convoy defense out here... And, okay, here we go. Now we're going to get an engagement. So, if you take a look here, look at these stats. If you take a look here, why having a small fleet is better is because we are doing 100% of our damage that we are capable of doing, which, I mean, 600 light attack for a task force that I really didn't throw my economy away into the toilet for, versus this is a 156 ship navy. We have almost equal light attack. Heavy guns were very out heavy gunned, which is probably, these guys might get shredded. But what you're going to see here, make sure this guy doesn't retreat, make sure my guy doesn't retreat. Do not retreat. Okay, there we go. So, what you're going to see here is that they are not going to do all of their damage. They're probably going to get shredded here, would be my guess. And I don't even have a lot of naval bombers in the battle, which is weird. They should pop up into the battle, but let's just see what happens here. And this is just me going toe-to-toe with a majority of the British Navy and my guy, and they're not completely healed up there. So, you know, we're kind of, dare I say we're winning. And another thing in battle is look at how fast these guys all leveled up. They're all now veterans. It's very easy to get levels from a ship, especially in a big battle like this. So look, we're kind of tearing them up a little bit. My destroyers are kind of getting torn up here. Not something I'm really cared about. I didn't really build any of the meta destroyers, but the way I built these cruisers is I built them with just enough armor to not get torn up by destroyers, but you know, they're still fast enough to dodge the big shells from these guys for the most part, and they can't hit anything anyway because they don't have fire control methods. So we are going to go toe to toe with what is this? A vast majority of the British Navy. Yeah, 126 ships. That's almost all of the British Navy. A little bit less, but they're really suffering from having a bigger fleet than I am, which is kind of weird, but that's just kind of the way the game is coded. And as you can see, they are taking a pounding, pound for pound wise. Their destroyers are dropping like flies, and when we run through the rest of their destroyers, see now their screening is just absolutely brutal. We are pounding their capital ships with our naval bomber. These aren't even naval bombers. These are just, look at all these. I mean, yeah, we've lost a ton of them, but I didn't even build naval bombers. Like I said, this is kind of just build more casts and have them do naval missions. It'll pay you dividends, I promise. And look at all the naval XP we got. So I could mid-battle here give myself more doctrine here, and we can start to see these naval bombers just giving it to them. Like, look at this. I'm just gonna let this play out at this point, and I'll do some closing remarks, but this is just an absolute pounding here. Do they have fuel? That might be, maybe that's another reason they're doing so bad. Oh, yeah, that would be. Let's just do that. And I mean, my heavy cruisers or my battle cruisers are starting to suffer a little bit, but that's why if I were to do this strictly meta, I probably wouldn't have built any of these. I could have had, probably 10 more of these shreddable cruisers, and as you can see, our screening efficiency. The only thing that's going to be hitting our capital ships is these few naval bombers they have, which it looks like I have completely shot most of these down, and the heavy guns. If you take out the ability, like look at all this heavy attack they had. If you take out their ability to use heavy attack, then you're really taking away half of their stats. Because if this was all, if I had all screens, this stat would mean next to nothing. Because they're not going to hit us with their big guns, because they're so wildly inaccurate. But I think I've proven my point with this battle, so I'm going to get the hell out of here, and we are going to see the results. I mean, just look at that. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I think I can do some closing remarks here and put to bed this giant waste of time. Alright, some closing remarks here. I think to say the number one thing is know your situation. Like, for instance, with Germany, unless you want to completely throw your economy into the toilet, building surface ships, trying to go toe to toe with the British, it doesn't really make sense. You'd have to kill them death by 1,000 cuts. Knowing your situation is always key. One little meta thing I did want to bring up for the Japanese and Americans, I think it's them who have the designer. If you wanted to go into capital ships and kind of just one little min-maxy thing. So Japan has a designer here, Coastal Defense Fleet designer. So what I do when I play Japan is I always get this one, and you're going to say, well, 20% armor, 20% heavy attack, and 50% max range, that stinks. Well, here's the thing. You build the prefits with this designer, you build them 25% cheaper. Then you either get this one or even this one, and you refit them, and the stats, the bonuses will change. So I build it 20. So if I'm building battleships, I build them 25% cheaper here, and then over here, I get 15% more heavy attack, torpedo attack, and the minus sub detection kind of whatever. But so that's one thing. Another thing I did miss is what patrol actually does. Patrol is just you're being cocky. Patrol is when you'll have your fleet go out, and based on their engagement rule, they'll go after anything they find, whether it's convoys or enemy warships. Basically, if you're the British and you were trying to find that fleet that I built, and you saw that I was active in this particular channel, if they saw that I had supremacy here, and I was out convoy raiding out here, and you put them on patrol, they'll find my fleet and go after it based on their engagement rule and what they see. You can even have, like, sometimes I'll build some subs just with a radar on it, and I'll put them on patrol, but never engage. And what that does is these subs will just go looking around for other fleets, and then once they find that fleet, they find a fleet, and I have my big force on strike force, then they will deploy and go find that fleet that my sub tracked down. It's a little too much micro for what I think is needed there. I would just put your big fleet out on patrol if you ever wanted to find something. Another thing I didn't really get into is convoy defense with ships. Like I said, normally big maritime patrol bombers are normally the best way of dealing with subs, or something in that's broken up into small fleets, and you got like all these different destroyer or submarine groups out there convoy raiding. But your main thing is to just match the number of enemy fleets. So if you're doing anti-submarine warfare and you have to guess obviously, but this guy's got one, two, three, four, five groups out in one, two, three, four, five ish zones, then you want to have five groups. If you have four groups, then obviously one of these subgroups will be unaccounted for, and they'll be able to go after the convoys. One thing that's normally banned because of this is that if I just split up all my subgroups into groups of one, you would have to do the same as the defender in order to significantly do damage against this. But like I said, just maritime patrol bombers deal with subs. It's not really even a big deal. I'm sure there's things that I've missed here. Navy is a very rewarding experience once you start to understand it. There is nothing like seeing this number be zero, which I've done in countless multiplayer games. Once I figured out Navy, I would go into historical games and just ask to be the main Germany's like naval co-op, and just take over all aspects of their navy and whatnot. It really is a fun time, and it really saddens me that not a lot of people understand Navy. As far as, I mean, I literally just did this, like I said, because somebody made a TikTok comment towards me. I don't know if I'm gonna make another video or whatnot, but if this gets some significant traction, maybe I'll try sinking the British Navy with nothing but my gunboat destroyers, or whatever you guys would like to see. If you wanted to see anything, just comment it. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.